Okay, now for talk with this microphone. Hi, everybody. Good morning for our ongoing adventure in Hasidic philosophy. So we started to talk yesterday about the idea behind, on the one hand, a jealousy, which is a healthy jealousy. There's actually kind of a good jealousy, and that jealousy, if you remember from our discussion yesterday, is that we're jealous of the good traits that people have, and it motivates us to want to emulate those good traits. And if you want to know, is it good jealousy or bad jealousy? It's a very simple barometer to be able to make that distinction. That is, does that jealousy make you feel positive about that person or make you want to hate them? So let's say Dr. Koff over there. So if I'm jealous of his great wisdom and compassion, okay, and if I say if I experience that as, wow, he's really like a compassionate and wise person, and I hate him for that. Low life, who does he think he is? I must be all put. I think he's Mother Teresa.
Don't worry, nothing to worry about.
What do you think? He's some kind of saint? Next thing he's doing, walk on water. It's gonna crack. The ice is gonna crack. It's all facade, right? So if that's the kind of thing that goes on in my mind, so that's a jealousy, which is not flowing from a good place. But if it's, man, he's amazing, and I wish I could be like him, and I'm going to strive to be like him, and I just love him even more than I usually do because of his embodying those traits. So that would be an indication that's flowing from a good place. Okay, now the bottom line is that that everything is flowing, and this is sort of the cardinal sin that we're seeing from this. Is that to the extent that a person feels like there's something, they take up space so that anybody else's existence intrudes on my space. That's what breeds hostility and ill will. Now, we then segue to talk about the tendency that also people have flowing from their sense of I actually am something, is the fact that Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Is the fact that people will sometimes gravitate and be loving and compassionate, but only to people who are not actually peers, right? So I mentioned yesterday that, for instance, like a rabbi, I can be a very loving and compassionate person towards a congregant, but they hate their colleagues, the other rabbis in town. Why? The other rabbis, right, are like, they're threatening my the air I breathe, right? They're my airspace, right? Because I'm something, right? And right, they're taking away from my somethingness. So therefore, it's kind of like this. So there's actually a Hasidic expression I learned about 30 years ago. It's called in Hebrew, well, sort of half Hebrew, half English, the triple shin. So shin is a Hebrew letter, right? So she flute shel sheker, which means humility, she flute, shell of sheker, falsehood, a humility of falsehood, meaning to be humble and loving, but it's false because you're right. It's only towards people who don't breathe my air, right? They don't take away my air, right? But if it's somebody, the rabbi down the street, then real humility. Okay, so that was the thing that we the last thing yesterday. Okay, now we're going on chapter Ted Zion, chapter 16. V'hinei kol dvarim hanizkarim le'el. All of the things of in the previous 15 chapters, yesh shehem begasut b'dakut. These things can express themselves sometimes overt, crude way where it's like obvious. Anybody with like eyes in their head or anybody who have any self-awareness whatsoever should be able to see how negative character traits and hostility are flowing from the sense of I exist, right? Or sometimes bedakut, dakut means literally thin when it's coming from subtlety. Like it's expressed in a subtle way. A little hard to detect. You got to go to Dr. Koff for spiritual analysis to be able to.
Or Dr. Zeph.
Yeah, or that too. Not yet. Okay. So, okay. Every person is different in accordance with where they're holding in their spiritual development. Sometimes these things are so subtle that we have no self-awareness at all. We actually think that we're like being pious and loving and compassionate and humble because the ego state is so subtle that we don't see it ourselves. Sometimes it's grotesque, and with all due respect to people,
usually except for the person that is in that.
That's the funny thing is like sometimes like I've seen it where like you wonder. Sometimes you see someone say something and you walk away, you say, oh my God, that person isn't embarrassed to talk that way. Like they have no self-awareness whatsoever. Like everybody around them is saying, oh my God, what is wrong with him? And that person is just like this elephant in a China.
Bull in a China shop.
Bull in a China shop. Whatever, you get the idea. Like, but sometimes it can be, and this is his point here, it's so subtle that, nobody perceives it. And even himself doesn't, and he himself doesn't perceive it because it's very subtle, and that becomes a real challenge. And I think one of us made this comment before. We're really striving here for excellence, not in an egotistical sense, but this is a very big demand to try to refine oneself. I think someone here mentioned this like Hasidic Musar. Hasidic ethical working on yourself, the character development. Yeah, like the Musar literature of working yourself very deeply to root out, negative personality in the, and it can be very dark. That's the Hebrew word, dark, very subtle.
Was that called part of Paro's dream?
Yes, the animals that were the fat animals and the thin animals. Yeah, that's the same word, dark, because it can mean thin. It could also mean subtle. Okay. It can be so subtle that it's like completely invisible, and you're really trying to be a good Jew, good person, to develop, to grow, learn, and you like look inside your soul and things seem to be okay. It can be so subtle. Whatever. I think in modernity, anybody who has any kind of like sensitivity at all, we tend to go the opposite direction. Most of us. By the way, I don't know if everybody gets the weekly e-blast. Does everybody get the weekly e-blast from KI?
He does.
Yeah, you should. I wrote an article this week about that for this coming Shabbat. About a lot of us go the opposite direction, which is also flowing from a negative place in the personality of not only do we not think we usually think we're much lower in value than we really are. Like sort of the inverse ego problem of like, I ain't nothing but a hound dog. I'm a loser. I'm rotten. I have no value. Nobody could ever love me. God doesn't love me. Blah blah blah. So that's a problem which is very contemporary problem. But okay, ubemet harizigam bichlal hanal ubasher ha'inyan hazeh garua ma'od yoter me'ezeh midah ra'a pratit she prat echad me'sitra achra. Now, he's going to make a very profound point. You see, a person might think that the ability to be loving is one detail among many details. There are many aspects of being, trying to be someone who serves Hashem. It expresses itself on so many different levels, right? There's all kinds of different character traits one has to develop, actions, the thought, speech, and actions on so many different levels to do the mitzvot. So, okay, this is one little detail. Ufrateno domeh lechlal, she'eno b'tuchuv kol kach, v'gam liyoto rak prat echad, levad kshehu ve'ezeh midah ra'a, yachol liyot shelo yipol b'midah ra'a acheret, shehi prat acher. So he says that if we're talking about like one detail, let's say, you know what, I'm remiss in the way that I carry out, I think of some silly idea. Let's see here. I speak too much, I gossip too much. It's a fault I have. This is hypothetical. By the way, did you hear about what Zev did yesterday? So
You weren't supposed to say that.
it's like I'm taking inventory, spiritual inventory. Am I serving Hashem properly? Okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, gossip column. I gossip too much. Okay, fine. So that's a detail. So you could say, so being remiss or needing improvement, one detail, that doesn't detract from the fact that in the other 612 details of my spiritual inventory, I'm doing okay in those. It's just in 613th, I'm not doing so good. Okay. He says, Masha'en kain sinat chinam. This is not true when it comes to hating people for no reason. That's not one detail of 613 details, and doesn't necessarily impact upon the other details. No. Shu klal hakolel klalut asitra achra. That when we hate people for no reason, it's actually the entire infrastructure of our personality that includes every single negative trait in our whole being is indicated, flowing from, and manifested from that sinat chinam, that basis hatred towards another person. It's not one detail among 613. It's our complete fundamental orientation as a human being. Something is flawed, meaning little cosmetic surgery will not help. We need a root canal, spiritual root canal. It's not just one detail. It's fundamental. You need like sometimes, when the engine of the car, no, I point to, was that what I said, the engine of the car? They're always having car problems. So like when, like the worst thing can happen when you have to have your engine rebuilt.
Buy a new car.
Yeah. So you need your engine fundamentally rebuilt, root canal. Why? Because shuhu inyan haperut v'chalkut v'hu makor v'sibah kol hamidot ra'ot. That the sense of divisiveness and separation, which leads to baseless hatred, that's the root. Actually, it's the root. Makor means source, a root of all bad personality traits. Now you might say, wait a second, it's just one. It's just one. Baseless hatred is just one problem. No. It's the exact opposite of Hashem's name, God's name, the four-letter name, the tetragrammaton, Havaya, right? Hashem, that name, right? We're supposed to be serving Hashem. When we hate somebody else baselessly, that is actually, we've embodied the exact spirit, the exact opposite posture of serving Hashem. Yud Kei Vav Kei is the exact opposite. Okay? Lazot misha chash l'nafsho shelo tia betoch haklipa v'sitra ach v'lo yipol midot ra'ot chas v'shalom ki kol echad yaset lachto lavod et Hashem k'debay le'meve v'yavar v'zakech midotav hativi'im. So therefore, if we want to serve Hashem properly, everybody here does. That's why we're here. So therefore, we have to root out the base of baseless hatred because it's fundamental. Now, why? So the reason why is because, as we've been trying to say this whole time, because baseless hatred is flowing from the fundamental problem of thinking that we exist. And if we think
the only ones who exist.
Well, no. Let me just get out a couple sentences and you'll see. See, it's true what you said, but I want to say it in a little slightly different way, right? We know that Hashem is bringing us to existence at every single moment. We don't have any independent existence. Nothing has independent existence, right? If it wasn't for Hashem saying, David exists, David exists, David exists, David exists, David would disappear, right? Hashem got distracted. He thought about the stock market. David would just disappear. Okay? That's the way it works. So But so nothing has ultimate reality except for God. God is the only ultimate reality because God's reality is not dependent upon any other thing. Our existence, our reality is wholly, in many senses, dependent upon the root of our reality, which is God. So only God really exists in an ultimate sense. Our existence is what they call in philosophical language contingent. It's dependent existence. We are a figment of God's imagination, right? The way I like to put it. Okay. When a person really realizes that, then there's no division, there's no divisiveness, there's no ego, because I don't really have ultimate existence. It's the ultimate humility, right? What's the opposite? I exist, and I exist ultimately.
Yeah.
Well, if I exist ultimately, then we get to Elisheva's point.
Yeah.
Then you're breathing my air.
You're walking in my space.
You're walking in my space. There's not enough room in this room for the 6 of us, right? Even 2 of us, right? Because I take up space. But if a person really understands that you don't ultimately really exist, only Hashem ultimately really exists in the real, true, profound sense of the word to exist, then I don't take any space. So if I don't take any space, no one's intruding on my space. So I never feel any hostility. That's why it's called baseless hatred, right? Because baseless hatred means I don't need any reason to not like you. The mere fact that you breathe makes me hostile because you're taking away from my air. Even if you're a nice person and you don't scheme against me, you're not taking, right? Your mere existence is intruding on my airspace because you exist. But that's only if I feel I exist. So that's why baseless hatred is not one problem among many problems. It's the whole fundamental problem of our personality, and that is when we feel that we're really real. You know, if you'll just give me one more minute, we'll finish the chapter. So you know what we have to do? We need to use a candle to search very, very deeply into our whole spiritual makeup. What candle we're going to use? The candle, and this is a very famous verse in Proverbs, that the candle of the Lord is the soul of man. We have a candle in here. We need to use that candle to search every nook and cranny, to do that root canal. I'm missing metaphors here. Check every nook and cranny. Now, what famous metaphor, what image is using here? To use a candle to look at every nook and cranny, look before Passover, before Pesach, to look when we go looking with a candle for every nook and cranny of the chametz, of the leaven. This is the leaven in our personality, to find that rot, that swelling up of the dough, the being puffed up of thinking we really exist. To find all of those details of Ratu, and to burn them out completely from our soul. Because what do we do with the chametz after we find it? We burn it up, burn it out. And then we can go forward with serving Hashem, with prayer, kind of bitul, through self-abnegation, not false humility, and I'm so pious, but real piety, which flows from a sense that, you know what, I don't ultimately have any real reality in the sense that only Hashem has reality. And then one can purify one's character and fulfill God's will in a way which is proper and which we're required to do. And on that note, we have finished chapter 16. We will go on tomorrow with chapter 17. And everybody's so excited, or at least I'm excited, about starting after Shavuot. We will be able to learn Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 days a week. And we're just going to keep plowing forward in our quest to be as great as Dr. Koff. This is amazing. Have a great day, everybody.